Okay, so we're going to analyze and give you a breakdown, financial breakdown in terms of this individual who's based in New York, basically went from earning $50,000 to $432,000 working at Amazon, and why he left.
AR is kind of a little bit of a limitation or a box.
Combo over salad with sauce on the side.
But oftentimes, if you go above and beyond and find ways to do things that will help you, it will oftentimes also help the company. The sort of nature of experimentation gives people the freedom to grow their career in the direction they want. My name is Nabil Khan. I'm 27 years old, and I went from making $50,000 a year to over $430,000 in just 5 years while I was at Amazon. I started at Amazon as an operations manager, managing a warehouse floor. From there, I moved over to a project management role and then formally transitioned to the senior product management title.
So here you can actually clearly see that if you have the willingness, there's opportunities within multinational organizations to be able to grow, right? A lot of people tend to just start in a specific role and then be within the comfort zone, and you don't see any changes in terms of no promotions, no moving up the corporate ladder, and then also that has an impact in your salary, yes? And especially as cost of living is going up, it's really, really important to continue to move higher up. And this, Nabil, really emphasizes the opportunity of having that strong will to be able to grow and build your skills and to essentially then earn more.
Over the course of the next 1 to 2 years, ended up being responsible for the roadmap for all the tools used to build almost all of Amazon's warehouses around the world. I realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur pretty early in my life. I always saw the life of an entrepreneur as being relatively high reward, but also having a high degree of variability, and it's almost like a constant fun adventure. I left the University of Michigan on May 2nd, and I started working at Amazon on May 11th. So there was very little downtime in between when I left and when I started.
So you can see how he literally, once he finished studying, literally a week later, he got a job. So clearly he was obviously looking for specific roles while he was studying, and the opportunity came about. So when people say that it's extremely difficult to be able to get a job, yes, we can see unemployment is increasing. Yes, there are layoffs taking place. But I really believe that if you have the acumen, if you have the knowledge or experience, and also you're willing just to be able to just get your CV in place, make sure you have some form of skill set that you've done before, and be willing to start at the bottom, right? Then there's always going to be a job, yes? And this guy clearly just demonstrates what happened. Didn't really have a lot of experience, finished university, and a job a week later. And began starting as a warehouse operations manager, yes? So this is, probably on the lowest spectrum as Amazon. And look at Amazon. Amazon is a humongous company that basically last year generated about $700 to $710 billion in revenue. And you can clearly see that they're hiring like 20, 30 thousands of people. So you can clearly see there's opportunities.
I had a group of roughly 100 warehouse associates. I was responsible for overseeing their daily performance. It was a really interesting time, kind of post-pandemic, because everybody was really focused on social distancing and working from home, and that just didn't exist for me. I started every single day with 100 people coming directly up to my face and asking me where they should be working.
So exactly, during the whole situation of that took place, we don't want to get any issues with YouTube. I think a lot of people were they didn't really want to be in a sociable or public environment, especially even after that period. So then they probably reduced the amount of people that were available to even work within that specific role. And he was very open. He was like, okay, this happened. He's wearing a mask. He's actually overseeing 100 people underneath him, and he wasn't really abrasive with talking to people, especially after what happened, right? So that just shows willingness to learn, want to be put himself in a deep end, irrespective of the current situation of what was happening. And this just showed, and this probably actually built that respect from his superiors, that he's willing to get his hands dirty, let's just say, and really work.
My next step that I was looking towards was the project management space, and I eventually always had my eyes on moving to the product or software space. I wanted to move into this space because of the fact that that industry changed more and there was more exciting projects, but also because of the fact that those jobs paid more too. So what I did is looked around the warehouse that I was in and found opportunities for me to create new projects that I could use to build a portfolio to get me to the project management role. I ended up getting funding from the site's general manager, from our safety teams, as well as creating a project opportunity that involved the entire building. This, as well as a few other opportunities that I identified, were what really helped me move to that project manager opportunity.
So you see what happened here. He basically wasn't just looking to aspire and to grow within the organization, looking for existing jobs. He actually created opportunities within the warehouse, right? Within the product, the software aspect, to see where you can be able to improve efficiency, improve productivity. He created these opportunities, showed his superiors, his managers, that this is what's missing, this is what's lacking, this is what could be improved. This, from a productivity perspective, this is where you can be able to generate more efficiency, and I can be able to build this for you. However, because I've already built this aspect with 100 people underneath me, now if we create this opportunity within this warehouse and this product line, this is what we can be able to achieve. If you do that, so you're essentially an entrepreneur within an organization. Managers love this because you're willing to actually be creative, you're taking action, you're thinking about things, and you're looking out for the interest of the company.
The career of product management is all about looking a few years in the future, devising a plan, and working backwards from there. I did the same thing with my career. And so when I thought about the mentors I wanted to have, what I did is looked at people who were a few steps ahead of me, and then maybe 5 to 10 steps ahead, and asked them for advice on the skills they had built and the areas in which their careers had grown. I learned how to code by using a software bootcamp from Georgia Tech, which I did over the course of about 6 months. I was always finding ways to be creative about the role that I was currently in, going above and beyond to find ways that I could apply that next role, and both building my career progress as well as the skills for where I wanted to go.
So what he was doing is utilizing first principles thinking, yes? And this is essentially problem-solving method that basically is involved in basic elements, right? Challenging all assumptions, looking at reconstructing solutions from the ground up, rather than the reasoning of analogy by building on existing solutions, yes? He's utilizing first principles, and he was doing this within this organization. So this approach is, phenomenally being used by the likes of Elon Musk, where he fosters true innovation, removing constraints, conventions, and building within the core truths, right? So he basically did that using first principles, looking for opportunities within an organization to create these things, to be able to expand and grow, to have people underneath him. And then in addition to that, the skills that he was lacking, he was willing to do this outside of his job, right? So he did a boot camp at Georgia Tech, learned how to code, and then expanding. So there's many different coding academies that you can do online, right? Like Code Academy, for example, or you can go to various boot camps. So off-site, offline. So these opportunities that it clearly says that if you're willing to do something, you can be able to find ways utilizing first principles.
I'm very fortunate that my girlfriend's law school stipend covers about half of the expenses for the apartment. We largely split rent as well as some of the utilities and water that kind of come with it. So there's a couple $100 other that are covered by that stipend too. Anywhere on average per month, I'm spending about $5,000, which matches the income that I have currently. Most of that expense is going towards food, insurance, and rent money.
So you can see he's bringing in about $5,000, as he mentioned. It essentially covers all of his spending as a clear breakdown. The rent is $2,000. Obviously, the cost of that is because he's living in a jurisdiction that's extremely expensive, cost of living, very high. Food, $1,200. Transportation, $900. That's a lot, right? Obviously myself, living in Europe, transportation is really, really cheap. Health insurance, $289. Business expenses, subscriptions and memberships, discretionary. So I would like to really see more about what the breakdown of this transportation, because $900 is quite a lot. Unless he's using, because public transport, there's no way unless he's driving. So it'd be good to see. Food wise, that's probably right. 1,200 is probably goes and spends a lot out, maybe in restaurants. He could bring that down and still have a good quality of food that he's actually ingesting. So something to look at.
Transportation, thankfully in New York, is a much smaller amount. I don't have to pay for a car or parking. I will use the subway for most of the time that I get around. One of the things that I do like is just going out to restaurants with my friends and girlfriend, and that's probably one of the few sort of luxuries that I really keep for myself too. When I was at Amazon, I was a little lucky to actually have a lower cost of living that enabled me to save more of my money. I was doing a lot of travel between New York and Atlanta at the time, staying both with my girlfriend for a few weeks, doing a lot of work-related travel, and staying with some family. I was able to save a lot of money on rent since I didn't have to pay a continuous place to live. I was saving upwards of about 80% of what I was making on a month-to-month basis.
So he just clearly said he actually has a net worth of $700,000 for his age, which is actually incredible. Obviously now he probably isn't saving that much, but obviously when he started at Amazon, he was saving a lot because the cost of living was very cheap. He was spending time with his girlfriend, with his family, so his overheads were really not that high. So he's been to a point of frugal, right? So he's giving them that sound foundation to be able to understand that he's not going to spend egregiously and not have any savings in place. So he's really built himself up on the building blocks that he can now really scale and expand.
My financial goal is to have an overall net worth of $1 million by the time I'm 30. This feels like a relatively high milestone because of the fact that I've been working in high net worth jobs for a while, as well as the fact that I want to be able to enter this next stage of my life with a high degree of certainty and financial stability.
I think that's very achievable. Obviously, it depends on where that money, that net worth breakdown. It'd be interesting to see how that is broken down into where it is now. Is this liquidity? Are these real estate he owns? Are they in cash, in treasury? So we can understand and where that could be applied and how that can be able to generate to be able to achieve that 1 million circa by the time he's 30.
I knew that my time at Amazon was going to be eventually limited. I actually had originally planned to leave earlier, but it just didn't feel right yet. I always had the dream of owning my own company at the forefront of technology when I grew up. And technology was an area where I always found I could innovate and also do something new every single day.
I used to work for Amazon for a while, so pretty familiar with at least AWS stage stack.
I was reaching my late 20s, and so it felt like a great time to continue taking risks in my career. Thankfully, because of my career at Amazon, I was able to amass about $650,000 over the course of my 5 years there, which gave me a really good financial cushion to leave my job with.
So that's amazing. You know, he's utilized by putting his head down during his 20s to be able to amass $650,000, which is absolutely phenomenal. That's giving him now that foundation to be able to say, okay, he's an entrepreneur at heart. He's assisted utilizing those skills within the organization. Now he wants to expand, going out, setting up his own shop and really moving. If things don't work, he can always go back to Amazon or another company, for example, Google or Facebook, or for example, and earn a similar salary that he was earning before. But now he's going to say to himself, he has that foundation in place. He has that buffer that he can now, with the money that he's built up, he can generate enough income that's going to be able to cover all of his expenses, and in terms of even passive income of his expenses, while he focuses on building his business.
Basically engineering roles to like engineering.
Yeah, and I also started at Anthropic.
It was like the space you were working in.
Initially, I was using my own savings to cover the cost of doing my business, but about 2 to 3 months in, I was able to start paying myself back. And now at this point, because I'm making about what my living expenses are, I'm no longer having to rely on my own savings to continue funding the company. For the near term, especially the next 1 to 2 years, I will probably be focusing largely just on making sure the company continues to run and grow. Usually I spend about, on average, 80 hours a week working. And if I'm not working, I'll be spending my time with my friends and family or taking care of my health in the gym. And that's frankly all I do. I think a successful life to me is one that balances work as well as time with family and friends. If I can have a really successful business and a really successful family life, that's kind of all that I'm trying to optimize for, and wherever that journey takes me is where I'm willing to go.
Is it like
The biggest thing I've learned during my career at Amazon that's helped both me and a ton of the people that I've mentored is to just be creative about what you can do in your current environment. People oftentimes think that where they are is kind of a little bit of a limitation or a box. Having the agency.
So this is amazing. He clearly just said that don't see where you're working now as the end, right? Don't see it as a limitation. Be creative within that silo, within that environment, and aspire to be able to basically grow, right? To expand and to be able to grow your skill sets, and also to be able to utilize those skill sets within an organization so there's value for that company, as well as getting value from what you're doing yourself. And then when it gets to a time where you believe that you want to spread your wings, you can be able to do that. So he's built up that whole thing in place now, and he's going to have a phenomenal future. That's a great testament in terms of what he's achieved thus far, probably turning 30 very, very soon. But yeah, all the best to him. If you like this type of information, please make sure you like, you comment, and you subscribe. I will soon be adding a spreadsheet in terms of a budgeting, saving, investment spreadsheet in the description. So please make sure, if you're really interested, click on that. And yeah, really appreciate time. And then also Patreon, if you like the type of stuff, the information, and advice that we give, then please make sure that you follow me and help and support me as well. Appreciated.